For all you bigoted, misogynistic, sexist people out there who say that men have a biological advantage over women in sports, who say that transgender athletes shouldn't be allowed to compete against women in sports, what do you have to say about Lakeisha James? Lakeisha James, the Queen of Akron. The Queen of Akron, who brought a championship back to Cleveland in 2012, fulfilling her promise to give the city of Cleveland a championship ring. What do you have to say about Barbara Bonds? Barbara Bonds, the all-time leader in home runs. Barbara Bonds could hit a bomb any day of the week off any man, off any of you sexist men out there. What do you have to say about Michelle Jordan? Michelle Jordan brought the city of Chicago 6 championship rings. And to finish things off, how about the GOAT, Tanya Brady? Tanya Brady has more rings than one hand can hold. 7 rings, Tanya Brady. Dominated the NFL for decades, becoming the greatest of all time. All you sexist, transphobic jerks out there who say that men have a biological advantage, well, all of those athletes say you're wrong. These examples we're going to talk about today, like a women's volleyball player getting partially paralyzed because a transgender athlete spiked the ball in her face, these are just outliers. These shouldn't influence our decisions whether we allow women to compete against biological men in sports. The first instance that is just an outlier is this women's volleyball player from North Carolina who gets the ball spiked in her face by a transgender athlete and is now experiencing symptoms that she will probably experience for the rest of her life, like being paralyzed in parts of her body, like having really bad headaches, like not being able to finish her senior season in high school. Not a big deal, right? Not a big deal. Let's take a look. You got the transgender athlete on the right going up to spike the ball right now. Boom. That's not a big deal. It's just a little bump on her head. Any girl could have done that. Any girl could have knocked another girl unconscious, caused her to have a concussion, caused her to go paralyzed in part of her body. That's typical. The girl that got knocked out was Peyton McNabb, and now she is a bigoted transphobe.
November 1st, 2022, I was severely injured in a high school volleyball game by a transgender athlete on the opposing team. I suffered from a concussion and neck injury that to this day I'm still recovering from. Other injuries I still suffer from today include impaired vision, partial paralysis on my right side, constant headaches, as well as anxiety and depression. I was unable to play the rest of my last volleyball season, and although I am currently playing softball, I am not able to perform as well as I know I have in the past because of the injury. My ability to learn, retain, comprehend has also been impaired, and I require accommodations at school for testing because of this. I could go on and on about how this incident has affected my life.
Lies. She's just a transphobe. She just got beat fair and square. The biological man that spiked the ball in her face, that is fair game. That game was equal. Anybody who says otherwise is just bigoted. In MMA, we saw this recently happen. All these bigots come out and say, Fallon Fox, who is a biological male, should be able to fight biological women. Nothing bad can happen. And then you guessed it. She broke the skull of her opponent, her biological woman opponent. And all these bigots like Joe Rogan, Matt Walsh, they come out and condemn it.
After this and how strongly they're committed to this. When there was a transgender fighter that was hiding the fact, was hiding the fact that they were biologically male and competed twice as a woman, beating the out of these women. And I was like, this is crazy. Like, you can't, and trying to say that it was just a medical procedure. And when I thought rightly got angry at it, I saw all.
Yeah, you shouldn't get angry at that, Joe. What are you thinking? Are you a bigot or something? That's fair. That is fair. Men do not have a biological advantage to women when you're competing in sports. It's equal, it's fair game, and Fallon Fox just landed a lucky punch that broke her opponent's skull. It has nothing to do with Fallon Fox being a biological male. Next, we have Cece Telfer. Cece Telfer's a really good track runner, transgender, so you know all the usual suspects are going to come out and say this isn't fair. Let's see if you can figure out which one is Cece Telfer. I can't tell. I can't tell which one it is. Can you?
I'm being bashed by the media. I'm being bashed by all the conservatives, I guess you can say. And I honestly don't even consider myself as trans. I just consider myself as a female.
Oh no, Cece. They're coming after you? They shouldn't, because this is fair. That was a fair race. There is no distinguishable difference between Cece Telfer and her opponents.
And it's unfair because
I can't tell any difference whatsoever. These bigots nowadays, they will say anything in order to move along their political agenda. Cece Telfer's opponents have just as much of a chance to beat her as she does to beat them. And even the Olympics is coming after Cece because she failed a test, and they're saying her testosterone, whatever that is, testosterone, was too high. Who cares if her testosterone is too high? Cece Telfer is a woman and should have the right to compete against women. She doesn't have an advantage. She only looks like a linebacker in the NFL. So what that she's 6'3" and jacked? Who cares? Who cares if her testosterone is higher than biological women's? And probably the most notable individual that these bigoted, misogynistic, sexist, transphobes want to go after is Miss Lia Thomas. Miss Lia Thomas is an American hero, standing up for the rights of women everywhere. Lia Thomas, 6'4", one of the best women swimmers of all time, dominated women's swimming. I couldn't even tell which one she was because she blends in so well. Nobody can tell that she was a biological male. Which one is Lia?
It's the final in the women's 500-yard freestyle. There's Katie Ledecky's
That couldn't be Lia right there. No way.
sterling record that has stood for 5 years now, 4:24. That should
Lia pass is so good. Lia, you are cute, girl.
be safe. The three-time Ivy League champion Lia Thomas was the top qualifier in the prelims. She swam 4:33.
Lia is competing against an Olympic athlete here, an Olympic medalist. Remember, when Lia was competing against biological men, it was just too hard. He wasn't very good. Will Thomas was not a very good male swimmer. But Lia is a woman and should be able to compete against other women. That's why when Lia competes against Olympic medalists, like the biological woman in lane 3, let's see how Lia does.
20 lengths to the pool. 20 points on the line for the winner here at the NCAA championship.
Expect Lia Thomas to go out fast.
She was pushed over the first 350 meters. Thomas wins the NCAA championship. Ended up very...
Wow, I never could have guessed. Lia Thomas just beat an Olympic medalist. But that doesn't mean anything. That does not mean anything. Just because Lia or Will Thomas was a terrible male swimmer and couldn't have beat anybody competing against biological men doesn't mean anything. That does not prove that biological men have an advantage against biological women in sports. Just because Lia Thomas in lane 4 just beat the Olympic medalist in lane 3 doesn't mean that Lia Thomas has a medical biological advantage. Bullshit. Absolutely it does. This is a complete joke. This is a complete joke. And the Biden administration is about to veto a bill, if it passes in the Senate, that would prohibit biological men competing in women's sports. They are going to placate to the woke trans-affirming agenda, the trans-affirming activist, and they're going to veto this bill that would prevent all these examples that we just went over from happening. Women's sports are under attack. Women's sports are in jeopardy. Now, there are some brave women like Riley Gaines and others, and the girl that got spiked in the face with the volleyball standing up, speaking out against this. More women are going to have to stand up. It's going to have to be women that stand up and say, we don't want this. We do not want biological men competing in women's sports. This is going to become a bigger and bigger issue. I think it's obvious. I think it's a joke, and I don't think it should be allowed to happen at all. My sister was a Division I track runner in Georgia, and if she had to compete against biological men, I would be furious. I would have gone absolutely berserk, apeshit, pitched a fit. It's going to take women. It's not going to be people like me, men, who are going to be able to put an end to this. It's going to take women to stand up and say enough is enough. We are not going to allow this. Let me know what you think about this in the comments. I love you guys. I will catch you in the next video. Until next time, peace.
And I'll tell you what, if I were ever, I'd be the greatest women's basketball coach in history. Because I don't like LeBron James. I like Michael Jordan much better. But I'd go up to LeBron James. It doesn't matter. I'd say, LeBron, did you ever have any desire to be a woman? Because what I'd love you to do is star on my team that I'm building up. I will have the greatest team in history. They'll never lose. Nobody will come within 70 points of